That was, of course, the famous alto clarinet solo from Percy Granger's Lincolnshire Posy, the third movement, version B. But that wasn't played on an alto clarinet. Or was it? What I have here is technically not an E-flat alto clarinet. This is a Basset Horn. What's a Basset Horn? And what's an alto clarinet? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. I just happen to have a Basset Horn here in my studio and an alto clarinet and another alto clarinet. So that's a lot of weird and obscure middle voice clarinets. So first thing, let's talk about what is a Basset Horn. Because that's what I've got here. That's what I just played. A Basset Horn is a clarinet pitched in the key of F. So if I play a C, it sounds a concert F. It's a fifth below the written pitch. This is an old instrument, dates all the way back to the time of Mozart. There is one additional feature that the Basset Horn always has, and that is a low C. Basset horns from the very beginning have had low C's. In fact, we call these Basset notes. So if you have an instrument that says Basset and it's in the clarinet family, it will go down to a written low C. Basset clarinet, well, that's just a clarinet to low C. And actually I have one of those in a case over there, but I'm not going to get it out right now. That low C sounds like this. It's a nice, rich sounding low note, isn't it? Mozart loved this instrument. Scored for it quite a bit in his later years, including in the Requiem. What is an alto clarinet? Well, an alto clarinet is very similar. It's pitched in the key of E flat. It's one whole step lower than the Basset Horn. However, most of the time, alto clarinets do not have that low C. This one only goes down to E flat. Most alto clarinets nowadays go down to E flat. A few older ones only go down to E. Steve Fox, the great Canadian clarinet maker, makes his down to a low D, and I've heard of people extending theirs to low C as well. But the standard default nowadays is a low E flat. And let me play that low note. That low E flat, by the way, is only 1/2 step higher than the Basset Horn. So the range is only a 1/2 step difference, which is why Steve Fox and maybe a few others have their alto clarinets go to a low D to match the same range as the Basset Horn. Now I'm going to play that same Granger excerpt on the actual alto clarinet. This is what it was written for. The first time I played it, I sight transposed it to where it will sound the same. So this is how it's actually written. And you'll see they sound very, very similar to one another. In fact, these two instruments I have could not be more similar to one another in the realm of alto clarinets and Basset horns. Because this is a Noble alto. Noble was the intermediate line for LeBlanc Paris. And this is an actual LeBlanc Paris Basset horn. So they're made basically in the same factory. In fact, they were made using often interchangeable parts. So this is the original stock neck for my alto clarinet. There's too many clarinets going on here. And this is the stock neck for the LeBlanc Basset Horn. And they are identical, with the exception that this, the alto clarinet neck, is nickel plated and the Basset Horn neck is silver plated. That is the only difference, and it is not going to make one difference in the sound. Now, here is another thing. Basset horns traditionally are a small bore instrument. What does that mean? It means they generally have a bore close to the size of a B-flat clarinet. That's around, 15.6 millimeters? Well, because these are interchangeable, I can put one on the other, and I have. They are not that small bore. In fact, LeBlanc made, and they don't make these anymore because LeBlanc Paris is out of business. They made the, I'll put one of these down, largest bore alto clarinet and basset horn that was ever made. In fact, I've got my digital calipers here, and let's just measure that. So I'm going to take the alto clarinet neck here, and I'm going to go to the inside bore here, and let's get it right to the edge, 18 millimeters. And when you're measuring bore, always do it in two directions, and that's 18.06. So we'll call it 18, and that's what LeBlanc called it. Let's take that same basset horn neck, and this is 18.10 in that direction, and 17.96. So this is a little more eccentric than the alto clarinet, but not by much, maybe a tenth of a millimeter. So that means that the LeBlanc basset horn does not conform to the theoretical ideal of a basset horn being a small bore instrument. It's a large bore instrument. In fact, some people will just call this an F alto clarinet. And that's kind of what it is. In fact, I don't even really like using the term basset horn because it doesn't tell you what the instrument is. Well, what does basset mean? Basset just means little bass. And, well, obviously this is not a horn. Although the earliest basset horns did have a brass bell on them that flared out and did look a little bit like a horn bell. And when I say horn bell, I mean like French horn. But this is an alto clarinet. Or tenor clarinet, or however you want to kind of really define that nomenclature. Now, I've got another alto clarinet here. I'm going to set the basset horn down, and I'm going to pick up this alto clarinet. And this alto clarinet is very different. This is a Selmer Bundy. This is Selmer USA's student line. Not to be confused with the Selmer Paris. In fact, the Selmer Paris is widely considered to be one of the worst designed alto clarinets out there. The Selmer Bundy, on the other hand, isn't too bad. Now, let's take this neck here, and we're going to measure its bore. All right, so in this direction, I've got 16.99, and in this direction, I've got 17. So it's really pretty round. So it's a 17 millimeter bore. So it is a smaller bore than the LeBlanc Basset, the Noble, Alto, in fact, anything by LeBlanc. So it's a smaller bore. In fact, this Selmer Bundy is going to have more of a traditional basset horn sound than the actual basset horn I have sitting here. Let me play that same Granger excerpt on the Selmer Bundy. listen closely, what you'll notice is this has a little bit brighter sound to it. There's a little bit more ping in the sound. It may be a hair reedier. Now let's go to the LeBlanc, or the Noble Alto. You'll notice that's a much, much bigger sound. Now I'm going to go to the Basset Horn. And you may notice that there's very, very little tonal difference between the LeBlanc Basset Horn and the Noble Alto. In fact, I really cannot hear much of a difference. The only place where you can hear a difference is when you get into the throat tones, and because the throat tones will be placed in different places on the two instruments. Other than that, there's virtually no tonal difference between the LeBlanc Basset Horn and the LeBlanc made Alto Clarinet. There is a tonal difference, though, to the Bundy. So there's some interesting ramifications to this. And one of the things that I have found is that conductors, particularly well-known band conductors, are gravitating more and more toward having the Basset Horn replace the Alto Clarinet in works of Granger and other important band works. And they see the name Basset Horn and they automatically think it is a better instrument. It's going to be a more professional instrument. They think it's going to provide a different sound, a better sound, and part of that is the active smear campaign against the Alto Clarinet in the 1940s, 50s, and into the 60s. There were published articles in the Instrumentalist magazine, which was one of the most widely read music educator journals of the time. It may still be, it's still published, saying, should we eliminate the alto clarinet? That was literally the title of a series of articles where they advocated for eliminating the alto clarinet, the E-flat alto. And one of them actually proposed, I'll just switch it over to the Basset Horn. And for a time, LeBlanc made an F alto clarinet that only went to low E. So it was this exact same instrument, but they cut off the lower joint here, eliminating a third of the notes, one third, not a third of all the notes. That did not really happen, and slowly the alto clarinet just started to disappear from band scores. By the 1990s, nobody was really writing for the alto clarinet anymore. You would still see in region and all state groups in high school calling for the alto clarinet. That continued on through the 2000s, but today they don't even show up. So that if the all-state band plays Lincolnshire Posy, oh yeah, nobody actually brought an alto clarinet. Oops, we can't cover that part. So many conductors are having their players play Basset Horn, thinking it's going to be a superior instrument. However, it's not always the case that the Basset Horn is superior to the alto. Yes, it's in a different key. It's in F as opposed to E flat. When I first got this Basset Horn, and by the way, this is not mine. I am graciously being loaned this by my friend Jason Alder. He bought this and had it shipped to me, and he'll pick it up here in a little while. But I did a tuning test between the Basset Horn and the alto clarinet, and what I found is my little alto clarinet that I bought for $300 was remarkably more in tune than this professional level Basset Horn. It had the same sound. It's actually, for me, I prefer the E flat instrument over the F instrument. It, to me, makes a better sound. It's easier to play. I can control it a little bit better. That's not saying this is a bad instrument. It's quite a lovely instrument. keywork is not well thought out. This was very early on in the design of how to extend instruments to low C. There's only one low D key, there's only one low C sharp, and there's only one low C. It's very difficult to do a chromatic passage. Modern instruments are better designed than this. But that said, what I've discovered in having both an alto clarinet and a basset horn in my possession for the time being is that the hate given toward the alto clarinet and in favor of the glorious basset horn that Mozart wrote for is completely unjustified. It's unwarranted. It is an equal instrument. There's not a giant timbral difference. Now, there are basset horns made that are small bore, and those do have a smaller, brighter sound. They are going to be closer to this Selmer Bundy. Steve Fox makes several models of basset horn, and if I had the money, that's what I would be ordering right now. A medium small bore that's will be able to take a B-flat clarinet mouthpiece, which is what traditional basset horns use, was a B-flat clarinet mouthpiece. So yeah, that's really the differences between an alto clarinet and a basset horn. It's not as big as people made it out to be. I find very little difference tonally. Yeah, the basset horn is going to give you more street cred. It's going to look more impressive on paper. Oh, we've got a basset horn, not an alto clarinet. Guess what? Nobody's going to be able to tell the difference. And the alto clarinet's going to be significantly less expensive. Like, a lot less expensive. So anyway, let me know what your thoughts are down below. Have you seen it where the basset horn is being shown more and more in major like university wind groups where they're using this over the alto clarinet? I know I certainly have. But anyway, thanks for watching me ramble on for God knows how long about alto clarinets and basset horns.